The Field of 68 Media Network presents Red is the New Orange, a Syracuse basketball podcast.
Vince intercepts a pass, breakaway for the freshman guard, he flies and slams! Aerial assault from Judah Mintz.
Looking to go back door to Bell, they get it to a near corner three, knocks it down! Chris Bell, the sharpshooter.
Bringing you everything you need to know out of the 315.
Up top, Williams surges ahead, up with the right hand and in. A pretty up and under move from Benny Williams to beat his man.
Over to Taylor, he skips into the lane, puts up a floater, it drops in.
Let's get it started with your host, Ian Unsworth and Johnny Gadamowitz.
Well, Ian, I got to tell you, I've got a little bit of a problem now as we sit here on this post-Super Bowl Sunday, Monday morning. Hey, everyone, it's Red is the New Orange alongside Ian Unsworth. I'm Johnny Gadamowitz.
Are you hungover at work like millions of other Americans?
No, it's not that. It's not that. It's that you look at the next couple weeks from a sports landscape, and until conference tournament time rolls around, I don't know. There's not a ton going on now. Football season's over. You get pitchers and catchers reporting, but no NBA, no NHL playoffs as of yet. And Syracuse basketball is not doing their part. I was hoping we would at least have, an entertaining back stretch of the regular season here. Red Autry keeping things interesting in year one, staying on the bubble as long as possible. I don't think we're going to get it, Ian, as Syracuse loses to Clemson 77-68 inside the Dome over the weekend. First of all, before we hop into the game, Ian, how's it going? How are you today?
Doing well. I've been up since 5 a.m. I feel like every time you listen to a podcast, there's at least one dude on it who's been awake for some gregarious hour of time or has just gotten off a flight. So that's me today. Flew back from New York City, been to the home of Durham. Got back about 30 minutes ago, but ready to rip. Did watch the game, or at least most of it, on Saturday. Can't say I was that surprised, if we're being completely honest. I mean, I even told the girlfriend, watch them get beaten up inside, and then they get beaten up inside. I mean, is it predictable at this point? It feels predictable. Because if Louisville did it, Clemson can sure as heck do it. So, got what we were expecting, and I also didn't expect Syracuse to roll over and die in the second half, especially with the storyline surrounding the game and the crowd that showed up for the game. It followed the script, just like the Super Bowl. Followed the script. If you had to tell your kid, hey, this is how the game's going to go about 2 hours before it would start, it's exactly how you thought the game would go.
It was very evident that Clemson was the better team. That was clear kind of right from the jump and really maintained to be true throughout the duration of the game. I mean, Clemson shot 61% from the field on the day. It was a really impressive performance from the Tigers. Joe Girard, 18 points, leads all scorers, not just from a Clemson standpoint, but from a Syracuse standpoint as well. And I think this was a game where Syracuse, yeah, sure, you want to give them credit for not rolling over and dying like you said, Ian. Okay, I can get behind that to an extent. But the discrepancy in the talent level was really evident right from the jump. I don't care how much fight you're going to put up, how much you're going to try your best to keep things interesting. And the Orange did that down the home stretch of this game. Chris Bell, 16, JJ Starling, 16, Quadir with a little bit of a bounce back, 13 of his own. But at the end of the day, that's what I boil back to. Every time I try to draw a positive out of this game, I fall back on the fact that at the end of the day, Clemson was by far and away just a better basketball team, and that is what I think ultimately pushed them to taking down Syracuse on the road.
I think we have to give a big kudos to Joe Girard because he embraced the hell out of the moment. He didn't look rattled. His family, like all 24 members of the Girard family, were packed behind the Clemson bench. He got booed a pretty substantial amount. And every single time Syracuse made a little run, or Chris Bell hit a three, or Quadir got to the hole, it was Girard who came back down the floor and made a shot or made a play. When was the last time in a Syracuse uniform, you saw Joe Girard score 18 points on 6 field goal attempts. It just didn't happen. He had to take as many as he possibly could to put points up. It speaks to how well Brad Brownell is coaching Clemson and how they're effectively using him. And I think also being in that offensive flow where you have big guys contributing, you have Chase Hunter to handle the ball and take the pressure off of you, helps Girard get in his rhythm. And as we know, when JG3 is feeling good and hitting his shots, nothing's going to stop him, even a crowd that he loves to toy with.
Yeah.
And he told him to shut up at the end of the game, and rightfully so, because he hit 2,000 points and he earned his moment. And I think every Syracuse fan probably appreciates Joe Girard so much more now than we did when he left. But at the same time, appreciates him because he handled the moment so well, and he never tried to taunt or nothing got out of pocket. It was the perfect reunion.
Yeah, I think you listen to his post-game press conference. He had nothing but love. He had nothing but praise for Syracuse, crediting Coach Boeheim for taking the chance on him, and obviously an upstate New York guy. We talked on our Clemson preview pod about just all the emotion that came with that, and you credit Girard for channeling that and leaving it all out on the court and being the impact player that he was. I think a lot of it boils down to what you said too, Ian. He doesn't have to be the it guy for the Tigers this year, right? Like there are other playmakers. He can sort of step back a little bit from a pressure standpoint and just kind of do his thing, right? Clemson doesn't need Joe Girard to have great nights to be a good basketball team. But when Joe Girard does have great nights, you can be darn well sure it makes Clemson that much better of a basketball team. Couple of things.
Not feeling the pressure to score.
Yeah, exactly. Couple of things from a Syracuse standpoint in this game, because all told, they lose the game by only 9. When you consider that they were down and put up only 24 points in that first half to trail by 13 at the break, went on to score 44 second half points. That's something that I think doesn't happen if it is not for the fact that Clemson turned the ball over 21 times. And this is something, Ian, that I think is kind of amidst all these losses becoming a little bit of a bright spot, in that Syracuse seems to have a knack for taking the basketball away. 14 steals. Now, you'd hope that when Clemson turns it over 21 times, the Orange muster more than 15 points off those 21 turnovers.
Not a great number.
Right. And that is because of the offensive inefficiency, which we have well documented over the course of the past few weeks. But I think if there's one thing for me that I'm walking away from this game and saying, okay, yes, the resiliency, you're not going down without a fight, you're keeping it close, you're keeping it interesting. But in a little more of a tangible aspect, it's that turnover number. Now, of course, the glass half empty side of it is got to find a way to manage more points off those turnovers.
I think Clemson did a great job of getting people back and stifling the Syracuse transition game. From a philosophical standpoint, the whole Autry claim of running and getting out and beating people with the speed has sometimes worked and sometimes has fallen flat. Clemson got guys back and then slowed down Syracuse's offense by playing zone. I mean, again, the irony is not lost on me that Joe Girard is playing at the top of someone else's 2-3 zone in the dome.
That was a great tweet by you, by the way, on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. Follow us on Twitter, F68_Cuse, if you're not already. We don't tweet often, but when we do, we promise they're good. Back to the zone point. It forced Syracuse to take some 3-pointers and take some awkward looks. I think also it can be a growing point for Syracuse because the zone forces you to move the ball. It's tough to play one-on-one isolation when there are 5 guys looking at you. And even if it was Justin Taylor in the middle of the zone, like it had to touch his hands at some point in time to break down the zone and create shots. Once Clemson went to the zone, Syracuse's comeback kind of fell short. The closest the deficit got was 4 around there.
Yeah,
and
in that ballpark.
Clemson switched to the zone, and Syracuse couldn't do a whole lot. I mean, if the Orange come out and play offense like they're trying to beat a zone, and I'm not saying, this is just hypothetical here. But moving the ball consistently, constantly to get guys open shots is going to work. The other number that we have to look at, which really equates to offense here, Johnny, Syracuse only took 15 free throws. We've talked about this before, but in the zone, you're less likely to foul, especially when you're rebounding well. The Clemson zone did not foul. Judah Mintz only took 2 free throws, 14 points on 18 shots. Just not good enough if you're Syracuse. It's not good enough. Maybe officials have gotten their heads together and said, we have to call the game a little bit differently when this guy has the ball. What happened to the days of him putting up 14, 15 points from the free throw line alone against the Niagaras and the Colgates of the world?
It's frustrating because that's Mint's bread and butter, and to see him not execute in that department, particularly when it was going so well for him in the first half of the year, is concerning to say the least. Bringing up some of these numbers, Ian, there is one other number, and I thought it is where you were going to go when you mentioned those free throws.
Mm-hmm.
The Orange got killed on the glass in this game.
Oh, yeah.
To the tune of 41-24. Like almost doubled up. Not quite doubled up, but almost doubled up. Clemson had 2 guys with 10 rebounds in Hall and Clark. But then they also got 6 from Shefflin, 5 from Godfrey. Like, guys were getting after it and crashing the boards from a Clemson
Shefflin's a
standpoint.
winning player, by the way. That dude makes winning plays.
Yeah. But the reason I bring it up
down the stretch.
The reason I bring it up, Ian, is because if you remember, with who Syracuse has on deck coming up this week, which gets a heck of a lot tougher in North Carolina, what was the issue following that UNC game? Well, there were a lot of them.
Everything.
Towards the top of the list was Syracuse was minus 23 on the glass. Again, I made mention of it last week. This team is not a good shooting team, and this is not a good rebounding team. And it is tough to win games when you're not good at both of those, let alone even just one of them. I'd take one at this point. But when you're Syracuse, if you're rolling out, okay, Mintz, JJ, and Quadir, let's say, just hypothetically, all on the court at the same time. 3 guards, right? You say, okay, 3-guard, athletic backcourt. None of them can shoot. And none of them are getting super active on the glass outside of Copeland here and there. This team just leaves so much to be desired, which is frustrating because individually there is talent. It just feels like it's a hodgepodge of a roster that doesn't really have any strengths that are going to will them to wins that they need.
Whether it's the portal, whether it's recruiting, got to find guys that do the little things, guards that want to rebound instead of running out in transition. And I don't care if you're 5'10" or 6'10", you got to shoot the rock. This team needs someone next year that can consistently put the ball in the basket from behind the arc. And Chris Bell has been better, definitely been better over these past 2 weeks. But, man, it's still not consistent enough to where you can rely on him day by day. Malik Brown also got 2 fouls in about 30 seconds in the first half. And against an experienced big like Hall, and I'm sure Bacot will do the exact same thing tomorrow. Go right at him, post up early, hustle down the floor in transition, and you got 6'10", Bacot at this point is probably playing at 260. And Malik Brown is 6'8", 215, 220. It's not going to work. And you don't have a reliable big off the bench. That's the same old, that's a tale as old as time.
It feels like this is far from the first time I'm saying it this year. Chris Bell is the only player who had multiple 3-pointers in this game. Mm-hmm. Syracuse obviously falling to Clemson 77-68. The other thing that's interesting too here, Ian, is the Orange only played 7 guys. It felt like it was a little tighter, and obviously this is going to be a post-Benny thing now. But 28 minutes off the bench for Quadir. Beyond that, the only other guy who checked into the ballgame was Munir Hima for 4 minutes. So this is what it is.
We thought the team would be deep at the beginning of the year. It's just not going to happen.
No, these are the guys you're going to battle with, you're going to war with for the case of the next few weeks. And we had the fatigue conversation a couple months ago, or maybe about a month ago at this point. We'll see how that factors in down the stretch. But right now, the Orange have more problems than good things going for them as we sit here in the middle of February. We'll look ahead to North Carolina, one of the best teams in the country. Before we do that, though, let's check in with Rob and get a word from BetMGM.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 as we all get ready for the best month of the year, March Madness. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD150 and you will get $150 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $5 of your hard-earned money. This is how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD150. That's FIELD150. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $150 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD150 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available in one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in Philly or New York, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create a new account in each state. It's easy, it's simple, and it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the conference tournaments and for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boost, and my personal favorite, a nice little parlay boost here and there. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today. Big news, guys. I am thrilled to announce that we have partnered with Autograph, a company founded by the GOAT himself, Tom Brady. The Autograph fandom app gives you access to the best college hoops content, fan contests, and exclusive rewards like discounted tickets, all for doing the things that diehard fans like you already do, following your favorite team in the news and listening to podcasts just like this one. When Tom, and yes, I am calling him Tom, we're on a first name basis these days, co-founded Autograph, he had one mission in mind: change the fan experience for the better. It works like this. You get all of your college hoops content you want in one place. You get articles from your favorite writers, pods from your favorite hosts, contests from your favorite creators, all on the feeds and the sites that you already enjoy. But instead of having to go to all these different places, it all comes to you in one spot, the Autograph fandom app. But here's the best part. The more content that you consume, the higher you rank in the app. As you consider the level up in status on the app, you can unlock unique rewards curated exclusively for you. So download the free Autograph app in the App Store and use the referral code F68, that's F68, or tap in at the link in the description below or in the podcast app of your choosing to start earning points for doing something as normal as listening to this very podcast.
Wrapping things up here on Red is the New Orange alongside Ian Unsworth. I'm Johnny Gadamowitz. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. A little bit of a shorter pod for you today because not a lot to talk about, to be quite frank, in the Syracuse basketball sphere. But one thing that we can look forward to, and I don't know if look forward to is the right choice of words, but definitely an intriguing matchup, a tough matchup, and an opportunity for the Orange coming up this week against North Carolina. A North Carolina team, Ian, that for as much as they had their way with SU earlier in the year, had a little bit of a scare down in Coral Gables over the weekend, only took down Jim Laranaga's squad by 3 points.
Yeah, North Carolina's been over some rocky waters, now lost 2 of their last 4 after a 10-game win streak. And this Miami game was a nail-biter. UNC was supposed to win that game handedly, especially because Miami didn't have Christian O'Jackson's favorite player, Keyshawn George. And they've had injury issues all year. Miami hasn't had a consistent 6 or 7 man rotation, but Nigel Pack did his Nigel Pack thing and scored 16 points in the first half. I do have a text from one of my UNC fan friends that reads, "Nigel Pack is so bleeping annoying." And Norchad Omier had 20 and 11. I mean, 4 of those coming on the offensive glass. Like, that dude's a beast. But other than that, UNC figured it out in the second half, stopped Pack. He only scored 4 in the second half and figured it out. RJ Davis had another great game. Baycott had 15 rebounds, which you should have against Omir, who's about 6'6". So UNC's winning these tough conference games. I think the win over Duke let everyone know that they're a legit Final Four team. Obviously, you show up to a game with that much hype and that much buildup, and you're the better team for, I'd say, 35 of the 40 minutes. Even though losing to Clemson, losing to Georgia Tech, I mean, they're losses, but I think UNC is probably one of the top 5, top 6 teams in the country. They should be a number 1 seed now after we've seen their body of work. It might not be 60-something points, 50 points like it was in Chapel Hill, but Johnny, I can't say I think this will be that close, even though UNC's had some rough waters as of late.
Yeah, the only true road game that the Tar Heels have lost was that game at Georgia Tech that they fell by, I believe it was only 1 point. Yeah, 74
It was 1 point. It came down to the last second.
And the reason that Georgia Tech won that basketball game, or certainly one of the reasons, was because they got 39 points off their bench. I don't know about you, Ian. I don't see 39 points coming off of Syracuse's bench this week.
No, absolutely not. The other reason Georgia Tech won is that they got a late foul call that went their way, made their free throws, and pulled it out at home, stormed the court, all that good stuff.
Right. Well, you can be sure that the Syracuse faithful is going to pack the place. I mean, this will be 2 straight games now where you'll have that atmosphere, at least you would hope, with Gerard's return over the weekend. And anytime you get a Carolina or a Duke coming to the 315, usually not only do the students show out for it, but obviously you get your local fans who really, make it a point to attend as well. So if anything, maybe that's something Red Autry's crew can fall back on, of a little bit of a raucous environment, get Carolina maybe a little out of their comfort zone, depending on how those first couple minutes go. But it definitely is going to be an uphill battle for the Orange if they do want to even hang with the Tar Heels, who, again, as you just said, Ian, probably a top 5 team in the country, potentially looking at a number 1 overall seed come March Madness. It'll be the second go-around of Syracuse and UNC. It is coming up this week. Is it a Tuesday game or is it it's a Tuesday game?
Tuesday at 7.
So that's tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. So they
not one of those late tips.
Yeah. Syracuse, if you're a Syracuse fan, you won't have to wait very long to see them in action. Again, now, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Probably
I'm not so sure, but we'll find out tomorrow. And then coming up, a trip down to Atlanta on Saturday to take on the Yellow Jackets. A winnable game perhaps for the Cuse, but we'll have more on that on the back end of this week. Until then, with Ian, I'm Johnny saying so long. Give us a like, give us a follow, give us a subscribe. We're at F68_Cuse on Twitter. Of course, as always, part of the Field of 68 podcast network. And right about that time now where college basketball kind of takes center stage on the national sports scene over the course of the next few weeks. So soak it in, enjoy it. And if you're a Syracuse fan, should be a good one tomorrow night between the Tar Heels and the Orange. We'll break it all down on Friday and look ahead